Hi, Ronan here. Just wanted to give you a quick tutorial on drawing a graph in Excel, how we can use log scale and just to get it presenting well. Firstly, I'm using an iMac computer with Mac software, and this is the Excel program. So it may look slightly different than PC, but not too different. You should be able to still find your way around. So you'll see in the window I've created some mock results of time points in minutes from 0 to 5 and product obtained in grams from 0 to 180. And I want to graph this data. So the first thing I can do is select the information, the variable. So this is the variable information of what I want to present. We can deal with the fixed times later on. So I select these and I want to do a line graph. So I'm going to pick a dotted line as my preference. So you'll see here it plots the data as best it can from that information. However, there's already some information I'm looking at that's not what we want. For example, look at the x-axis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we want 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to have to work on that series, and as you may have noticed, we've no labels, no units, no titles. So let's get started with this one here. We can right click on series 1 and go to select data, and this lets us add a name. So we'll call it today experiment 1. Okay, and then you also see here categories for the x-axis. So we want to have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 because that's the data we've used here as our fixed time points. So I'll enter those and it immediately updates 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have experiment 1. We've updated our title so far as well. So let's just look at the scales as well. You see here it's not crossing at 0, 0. So we can open up the x-axis and there's a tick box, vertical axis crossing between categories, and we don't want that. So we'll press OK. And now we're at 0, 0 like what we want. So let's get our titles filled in. Up in the main menu we have charts and chart layout, and you'll see there's easy options here for us to do that. So let's say we want a title above the chart. We already have experiment 1, so let's put in, say, the date, for example. Okay, so now we have our title done, but we need our axis labels. So when we select the graph again, we now can have axis labels. So say on the vertical, I'll use the rotated title because it puts the text nicely at an angle. And we're going to type in product obtained. And don't forget the units. We got to have units for all these graphs, or it's a major fault of your graph if you don't have a unit. Okay. So once we have our x-axis or y-axis done, we can then come back and look at our data labels and axis labels and say we want it on the horizontal below. And this one here we know is time points, and as we said, minutes, right? Of course, your naming the axis will depend on your experiment. So that gives us a graph now where we have the series labeled with our experiment 1, the x-axis numbers fixed, we have a nice 0, 0, time points and product obtained. Sometimes you're going to be asked to add a trend line. And when I select the graph, I have an option here of trend line. I can add a linear trend line, which shows me a trend line across the kind of the graph portion itself. So it gives us a trend line. So it's easy to add the trend line as you want. So I'm going to take that back off. Another thing you're going to come across is something called log scale. And it's a way of seeing data that gets kind of from very low values to very high values. It's very hard to see it on a graph. So on a normal algorithmic graph. So log scale can help. So if we double click on the y-axis here, you'll see we just have to click logarithmic scale, press 0, and then we get an idea of the data being presented indifferently. But look at the axis, 1, 10, 100, 1000. I'm sure you're aware of log scale already, but it's just something to be aware of where to find it. In this case, this graph is perfect as it is. It's just that I want you to be aware of where the log scale is. So you may be adding error bars and so on depending on your data. We have them here as an option under the chart layout again. So that's how you can prepare a graph. Just to go over the key elements, we have a title, we have a y-axis and x-axis which are labeled but also contain the units. We've labeled our series, our legend. Some people don't like the series. It's very easy to get rid of these off the side if you wish. Some people will have omitted them and label them if they want. So I hope that's helped.